Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jalen and today I have my October TBR full of spooky books that I really want to read. And I think I'm going to read most of these, but we will see. So, it is September 27th as of today when I'm filming this. Spooky season is approaching and I'm very excited. I'm feeling the vibes. I decorated my house for the first time ever. I've been baking stuff, or my partner baked something and I ate it, but I'm gonna take ownership of it anyways. I yesterday hung these orange lights from Target, and when I tell you I'm feeling the vibe, I turned it on and I my jaw dropped. I'm being so dramatic, but I just love Halloween, you guys. I love Halloween. It is my favorite. I don't always fully participate in Halloween, but just I feel it in my spirit, you know what I mean? Any of the horror vibes, if I see a ghost, if I see a pumpkin, I just it touches my heart. It just does something. And so when I hung these orange lights, I was full fantasy with the books. I'm like, can you see? You see that? I'm obsessed. I've been starting to read some spooky books. I'm really feeling the Halloween vibes this year for some reason. Not sure why that is, but I do love horror. I do love spooky things. And so I like to see that in my fiction as well. Follow my channel for any length of time. You know I read a lot of contemporary literary fiction, but I do love to dabble in horror and the spookier side of things, darker things generally. So spooky season is a perfect excuse to really dive into that fully. And so, yeah, I will share first what I'm currently reading. It's going to roll over into October, and then a couple other books that I'm really looking forward to, that I'm wanting to read, maybe. But I could also be persuaded to pick up something new. So if you have a favorite spooky recommendation that you think I would like, definitely drop it in the comments below. I'll take any recommendations. I have a ton of Stephen King up there, but I haven't been in the mood for Stephen King lately, and so I'm looking for dark literary fiction or pure horror. Short stories would be great too, shorter things so I can read a bunch of stuff would be awesome. And any horror audio, give me all your spooky recommendations in the comments. I'd really appreciate it because I do have this list that I think is really good, but I could be persuaded and I want to know what you all think. So anyways, let's dive into it. So right now, this is a risky pick, but I'm reading, sorry for the glare, it's a library copy. It's My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And so this one, I was very skeptical of purchasing because I DNF'd The Only Good Indians by him. And so I got this from my library the day it came out. So side note, check your libraries before you buy a book because, I don't know, maybe it's just because I live in Phoenix and it's a pretty big library, but they have a lot of new releases right when they come out. Or you can place an order for them on the website, reserve it in advance of the release date, and then whatever comes in a week or two later, you get a fresh brand new copy and you don't have to pay for it, which is nice. So I've been trying to use that as a way of not breaking my book buying ban, and it worked out here. And it was because I didn't like The Only Good Indians, I was very nervous about buying this one. But I started this yesterday and I kind of can't put it down, which is surprising. I like to read a lot of things at one time, but I've already read 140 pages since yesterday. I was flying through this. So I have Scribd as well, this service that you pay monthly, and they have a bunch of audiobooks and ebooks, and they had the audiobook of this as well. So I've been listening to it and reading this, and I'm really liking it. So we follow this character, Jade Daniels, and she's a high school senior, and she is battling with a very abusive and alcoholic father and an absent mother, but the one area where she seeks solace or finds happiness in is the slasher genre. And so I adore slashers, and my favorite subgenre of horror. I love everything about them. My favorite movie of all time is Scream. I'm so here for that aspect of this book. And so what's going on here is there's been what seems to be a murder that's occurred at the beginning of this novel, and she ends up discovering it after she attempts suicide in response to something that happened with her father. From there, she starts thinking about how her life in this city of Proof Rock in Idaho is going to be the subject of an upcoming slasher in real life for her, and her being excited about it in a really creepy way. This is no spoilers. I don't know what's happening, but I think I know what's happening. And I'm getting vibes, unreliable narrator vibes in a bit. Maybe. I don't know. I think I'm onto this one, though. I think I know what's happening. It reminds me of Death in Her Hands, if my prediction's correct, in which maybe she's kind of creating some things that are going on in her head as a response to trauma. No spoilers for Death in Her Hands, but, the vibes. I think that's what's happening. Looking at some bigger themes of race, colonization, it's really cool. So I really like all of that, and I really like this character of Jade. She is going through it, but she seems to find a lot of humor and solace in horror, and I love that as a character study. And this one is a really good blend of, not much has happened so far, but really good deep dive into this character's mind. But I will say I have some gripes with his prose, like I did with the last book that I DNF'd, but This one's way more readable than the last one. And so yeah, I'll see what I think by the end of this one. Next, I'm almost done with this horror collection called The Strange Thing We Become and Other Dark Tales by Eric Larocca. And this is a queer horror short story collection. I recently read his other book called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, which has since blown up, like, significantly, especially for an indie horror title. It's funny, so that book is the one in which I got over 1 million views on TikTok, where I recommended it in one of my videos, and I thought that was cool that I managed to get that TikTok to blow up when it was also, you know, promoting a queer horror indie book, which is really sweet. And so I think it's awesome that that book's getting a ton of buzz and praise. It's quite divisive. I loved it, but anyways, he sent me his short story collection, and I think this is so good. He's like one of the most exciting writers that I've come across. His short fiction is equally excellent. The other book is a novella, and it was also super short, but he has a lot with the pages that he's given. The through line here thematically is looking at grief and loss in particular, and so I think this collection is very, very sad and very creepy. Some of the stories in here I will never forget. I only have, I think, 2 or 3 left, so the ones that I've really liked so far, the first one was really good. It was super short, and it was just, oh, I love a piece of like almost flash fiction that can do so much with so little, and that one does. I don't even want to talk about it really. Easy to spoil given how short it is. The other one called Bodies Are for Burning, that one follows a woman who is dealing with intrusive thoughts about burning things, and yeah, I'll leave it there. And then this other one called You're Not Supposed to Be Here, that is I could not put it down. It was so good. So we followed this couple who was approached by another couple who basically tell them to like confess their deepest, darkest secret, and if they don't, then there'll be consequences. I'll leave it there. But it was so smart, really well done. Yeah, I have a couple stories left. I'll talk about it more in my wrap up, but I'm really digging this for some short stories. Next, I'm reading a tome of a novel called The Morning Star by Karl Knausgaard. This is my first of his, and this isn't really horror per se, kind of is. I'm only 200 pages in, I believe. Is that right? Just about 200 pages in. So we're following a bunch of characters in Norway, and it shifts perspective in every single chapter or part. And so there are 9 characters here. Basically what's happening in this book is that we're following their lives, and they're often at a crossroads in their families or in their identity or something that they're going through. But in the background, there is a star that has appeared in the sky that seems to be altering the world in some way. So in one of these stories, I forget which character it is, but she encounters someone at an airport. I think it's the priest or something. And she later sees that he's died, and allegedly he's died 10 days ago, but that's not possible. The animals in nature are acting weird. And so weird vibe so far. This one reminds me, and I've seen a lot of comparisons and early reviews for it, that it is very akin to Stephen King, and I can definitely tell. This one kind of reminds me of Needful Things by Stephen King, in which there's like a dark entity that comes to a town, and you're following a bunch of people and like seeing what happens to them. So it seems similar in premise there, but I will say so far, not much has happened. I feel like it's a lot of setup, a lot of character development, getting us invested in the characters, and I'm eager to see where it goes, because I've seen like Brandon Taylor, he said this is a masterpiece. I've seen a lot of really positive reviews for it. It's not really doing much for me so far. Like, I think it's well paced. I'm interested. I want to know what happens, but none of it is really like blowing my mind per se. I'm still pretty early on, so I will see. It's really dialogue heavy, quite pacey. It's interesting. It's an interesting one. I have no concrete thoughts yet, but this one's giving kind of spooky vibes, kind of weird vibes. I'm liking it. Spooky cover. I forgot I was reading this book, but not because it's bad or anything, but I'm reading Bathhouse by PJ Vernon, and I'm about halfway through it. This is a thriller. Who is she? Don't know. I picked this one up because I saw my friend Hunter at Shelf by Shelf, Matthew from Matthew Sharapa. By the way, side note, I have 2 recent podcast episodes up with them in which we talk about book publishing, influencing, all of that. I recently started a podcast on my channel. If you haven't caught it yet, I'm doing a weekly sit down with another guest, hopefully down the line authors. It's been really fun so far, so I hope you like it. Anyways, they both liked this book until I picked it up, and I'm really liking it. This is a gay thriller. I don't know why that's funny. A gay thriller. Basically, we're following this couple, Oliver and Nathan. Oliver, they're not married, they're engaged, I believe, and while Nathan is out of town for work, he ends up going to a bathhouse behind his back in attempts to cheat on him. And things go south when he tries to do that, when a man tries to kill him, and he escapes. And then you see the fallout that ensues with him trying to cover up what he did, but also going to the police and saying, like, this man is stalking me, but he can't tell his partner, and his partner thinks something's fishy. And then Oliver has like a hidden past. It's spicy and I'm into it. I will say like the writing's not blowing me away by any means, but from a thriller perspective, I usually don't like them, but this one has me gripped and I'm really liking the setup here. Not sure if it's because I can relate to the gay aspects of this book, not the cheating serial killer aspects of it, but it is kind of spooky enough for me to consider it here, and I'm liking it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. If it goes where I think it's going now, I'm gonna be mad. So wish me luck with this one, but it's fun. All right, now going into the possibilities. I only have a few, but I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I was really looking for like a gothic, classic, older, something different from my usual read, and I think this will suit that. I did start it. I got to chapter 3, and I'm liking the setting, I'm liking the vibes, but the prose is just so classic, old.
Comment on your TikToks that say, "Hi, old."
Hi, old.
It's so funny.
It's hard. It takes more time for me to really get invested in it, and it's just a different experience. I don't know if many can relate when you're reading classics, but not that it's like incomprehensible by any means, but it's just a different approach to it, not what I'm used to. And so I have the audiobook for it as well, but I think this is what I'm going to read. I was stuck between this one and Villette by Charlotte Bronte, but I think I'm going to go with this. It's shorter, easier to conquer, and I'm liking the vibe so far. So I think I'm going to stick with it. Not promising anything, but we'll see. Okay, more possibilities. Next, I have this big boy called From Hell by Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell. This is a master edition that I bought for no fucking reason other than I wanted to read this like last year because it sounded cool, and I had to buy the most expensive version of it because why? I don't know. It had just come out, I think, and so I think that was my excuse. You know me, I love a new release, but this is the first time it's been in color, I guess, so I think when it was previously released, it was all in black and white, and yeah, this basically tells a fictional account of Jack the Ripper, and I hear it's quite dark and a lot about, I think, the women at this time. Like, I think it's a focus on the untold stories of these women that were killed by Jack the Ripper. I'm excited for it. I like graphic novels generally. I don't really read them often, but when I have, I really liked my experience with it, and I would like to dive into a big, long, fictional graphic novel. So I think this is one I really want to conquer. I've heard really great things about it, so if you read it, let me know. Next, I have The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. I think this is the least, like, directly spooky of them all. I actually don't really remember what this one is about in full, but I think it follows 3 women in 3 different generations and the effects of violence from men on all 3 of them and how their stories kind of intertwine a bit. I hear it's quite dark and gothic, and I'm getting autumnal vibes. If you read this one, let me know. I know a bunch of booktubers on here have read it. I know Simon from Savage Reads loved it. I believe Grace loved it. Those are the only 2 I actually remember that have read this one. But yeah, so let me know if you've read this. I love this cover. I like always look at this cover and I'm like, damn. Yeah, a wondrous and disturbing novel. We love being disturbed. Next up, I have a horror classique that I keep meaning to read, but I haven't, and it's Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. Basically, it's about a carnival that rolls into town, ushering in Halloween a week early, and I think we follow 2 younger teenagers maybe going to this carnival. I actually don't know much about this at all. I've never seen, I think there's like a movie or TV show based on it. Never saw it, but whenever people say like, what's the best Halloween read? This is like the number one I've seen online, on Bookstagram, like everywhere. People rave about this book, and so I would like to finally read it because I'm feeling truly in the spooky vibe. So I think this is like truly the spooky book to get me further into the vibe. So, all right. And then the last one I have on my list is The Deeper the Water, the Uglier the Fish by Katya Apekina. I don't know if that's how you say her name. I believe she's a Russian author. I think this is her debut that came out a few years ago, but this came on my radar because of CJ. She said that this is one of the most disturbing books that she's read and recommended it to me because I am a disturbing lad. And I think this one is about 2 sisters craving the attention of a parent they can't and shouldn't have to themselves. So things about love, obsession, and a messed up family, I think. So love that. Don't know too much about it, but I see this recommended as a good, like, disturbing recommendation. And yeah, that's basically it. CJ told me to read it, so I want to read it. So that is it for my Horror-tober spooky season TBR. I'll probably throw a couple other books in there next month. I don't know if I'll get to all of these, but let me know which ones you think I should read, which ones I shouldn't read. Excited for spooky season. So that about does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.